In the vast expanse of space, humanity had always wondered if we were alone. That question was answered on a quiet Tuesday morning when the skies above Earth's major cities filled with massive crystalline ships, their surfaces refracting sunlight like cosmic diamonds. We weren't alone, but we soon wished we were. The alien transmission reached every device on Earth simultaneously. Their message was clear and terrifying. Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere was an abomination, a cosmic mistake that needed to be corrected. To them, oxygen was a corrosive poison, a molecular weapon that had no place in their perfect universe. They had come to cleanse our world, to make it suitable for what they considered proper life forms. They called themselves the Purifiers, and they saw themselves as gardeners of the galaxy, pruning away what they deemed dangerous evolutionary branches. Their first attack came without warning. Spherical devices they called oxygen bombs rained down on our cities. These weapons were designed to concentrate oxygen to levels that, according to their science, should have been instantly lethal to any complex life form. I remember watching from the rooftop of Central Hospital as the first bomb detonated over downtown. The air shimmered like a heat wave, and a visible bubble of concentrated oxygen spread outward. The purifiers waited, their ships hovering expectantly, certain they were about to witness our extinction. But something unexpected happened. We didn't die. Instead, people in the affected areas reported feeling energized, more alert. Some even claimed their headaches had disappeared. The purifier's deadly weapon had essentially given us a planet-wide oxygen boost. Their confusion was palpable in their next transmission, their artificial translation unable to hide their bewilderment. What they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that oxygen wasn't our enemy. It was our ally, the very element that had fueled our evolution. Our bodies had evolved over millions of years to not just tolerate oxygen, but to thrive on it. Every cell in our bodies depended on it. Their weapon of mass destruction was essentially giving us a worldwide breath of fresh air. Dr. Sarah Chen, our leading atmospheric scientist, explained it best during an emergency broadcast. They fundamentally misunderstood Earth's biochemistry. They assumed that because oxygen is corrosive to them, concentrated oxygen would be lethal to all complex life. They never considered that we had evolved to harness oxygen's reactive properties for our own benefit. The purifiers launched wave after wave of oxygen bombs, each more concentrated than the last. They watched in horror as humans not only survived but seemed to become more energetic. Athletes broke world records. Elderly people reported feeling decades younger. Hospital patients recovered faster. Their weapon of genocide had accidentally given humanity a global performance enhancement. But our unexpected survival had greater implications. Word spread through the galaxy's communication networks about the strange oxygen-breathing creatures who couldn't be purified. Other species, long intimidated by the purifier's crusade, began to question their authority. If their fundamental assumption about oxygen was wrong, what else had they been wrong about? As I stand here now, watching another oxygen bomb detonate harmlessly over the city, I can't help but smile at the irony. The purifiers came to demonstrate their superiority, to cleanse what they saw as an evolutionary mistake. Instead, they revealed humanity's remarkable resilience and adaptability. Their attempt to erase us from existence only proved why we deserved our place among the stars. But this was just the beginning. The purifiers wouldn't accept defeat easily, and their next move would test humanity in ways we never imagined. As their crystalline ships regrouped in high orbit, we knew one thing for certain. Earth wasn't going to give up its oxygen-rich atmosphere without a fight. The purifier's retreat to high orbit gave us precious time to prepare, but it also gave us something equally valuable: information. Their public communication channels were surprisingly open, a sign of their previous unchallenged dominance. No species had ever survived their purification attempts, so they'd never needed to hide their plans before. Our linguists and scientists worked tirelessly to decode their transmissions. What we discovered was both fascinating and troubling. The purifiers weren't just shocked by our survival. They were terrified of it. Their entire civilization was built around the belief that oxygen-based life was an impossibility, a cosmic error that needed to be corrected. Dr. Chen and her global team of researchers found that the purifier's bodies were silicon-based, using complex chemical reactions that would instantly break down in an oxygen-rich environment. They viewed our very existence as a violation of universal law, and our ability to thrive in what they considered a toxic atmosphere challenged everything they believed about life itself. But it was Dr. Chen's next discovery that changed everything. While analyzing data from the oxygen bombs, she noticed something extraordinary. The concentrated oxygen wasn't just harmless to humans. It was actually strengthening our cellular structures. The bombs had triggered an unprecedented acceleration in human physical adaptation. It's like they've accidentally kicked our evolution into overdrive, she explained during a closed-door UN session. The concentrated oxygen is enhancing our mitochondrial efficiency. People exposed to multiple bomb sites are showing increased strength, improved healing, and enhanced cognitive function. We're literally getting stronger with each attack. The global response to this information was immediate and decisive. Instead of seeking shelter from the oxygen bombs, many cities began organizing exposure zones where people could safely experience the enhanced oxygen effects. Sports organizations had to create new categories for oxygen-enhanced athletes. Medical facilities reported miracle recoveries as elderly patients regained mobility and chronic conditions improved. The purifiers watched all of this with growing horror. Their communications became increasingly frantic as they observed humans not just surviving, but actively seeking out their weapons' effects. We intercepted debates among their leadership. Some argued for immediate retreat, while others insisted on escalating the attacks. Their confusion turned to panic when they detected the first signs of adaptation in our youngest generation. Babies born to mothers who had experienced multiple oxygen bomb exposures showed remarkable developmental advances. These children, dubbed oxygen generation by the media, displayed unprecedented physical and mental capabilities. But with these changes came new challenges. Global governments struggled to manage the sudden emergence of an enhanced human population. Questions of fairness and access to the oxygen bomb's effects created new social tensions. Some religious groups declared it unnatural, while others saw it as divine intervention. The purifiers' next move was unexpected. Their ships began changing position, forming a complex geometric pattern in orbit. Our astronomers noticed they were aligning with something in deep space, something massive approaching our solar system. Their communication shifted to a new frequency, filled with what our linguistics experts identified as religious overtones. Through scattered transmissions, we learned they had called for help from their species' most sacred authority, the Grand Purifier itself, a being they believed responsible for maintaining the galaxy's proper order. Whatever they had planned next would be more than just another attempt at purification. This was becoming a holy war. As humanity prepared for this new threat, we couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The very force they had intended to use for our destruction was transforming us into something they feared even more. The question wasn't whether we would survive their next attack, but whether they were ready for what we were becoming. The arrival of the Grand Purifier made all previous alien ships look like toys in comparison. It emerged from hyperspace like a crystalline moon, its surface riddled with patterns that seemed to defy geometry. The smaller ships immediately arranged themselves around it in a formation that resembled a giant snowflake against Earth's sky. Our first hint that something was different came from the oxygen sensors Dr. Chen had distributed worldwide after the initial attacks. They detected subtle changes in Earth's atmosphere. The oxygen wasn't just being concentrated anymore. It was being altered at the molecular level. The Grand Purifier was attempting something far more sophisticated than the crude oxygen bombs. They're trying to change the fundamental way oxygen behaves in our atmosphere, Dr. Chen explained during an emergency broadcast, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. It's like they're attempting to rewrite the basic chemistry of our world. But what they don't realize is that we're not the same species they first attacked. She was right. The enhanced humans who had experienced multiple oxygen bomb exposures began reporting strange sensations. They could actually feel the atmospheric changes, as if they had developed a new sense. Children of the oxygen generation displayed even more remarkable abilities. Some could instinctively detect areas of altered oxygen concentration, while others showed signs of being able to influence it. Global military forces mobilized, but traditional weapons seemed futile against the scale of this threat. The Purifiers' previous attacks had been surgical strikes. This was a full-scale attempt to terraform our planet into something that matched their definition of purity. Our satellites detected massive energy buildups within the Grand Purifier's structure. Then we intercepted a transmission that chilled everyone who heard it. The Grand Purifier wasn't just trying to change our atmosphere. It was attempting to alter the quantum structure of oxygen itself to make it incompatible with carbon-based life. If successful, every breath would become poison, not just for humans, but for all life on Earth. But they had made a critical mistake. In their religious zealotry to purify the universe, they had given us time to adapt. The months of oxygen bomb attacks had forced human biology to evolve in ways that even our best scientists were just beginning to understand. What started as enhanced physical capabilities had become something more fundamental. Dr. Chen's latest research revealed something extraordinary. The oxygen generation children weren't just detecting the atmospheric changes, they were unconsciously resisting them. Their bodies had developed a kind of biological quantum field that naturally stabilized oxygen molecules around them. It was as if human evolution had developed an immune response not just to the Purifier's attacks, but to their entire concept of reality. As the Grand Purifier's energy readings reached critical levels, something unprecedented occurred. The oxygen generation children across the globe began to react simultaneously. From New York to Tokyo, Sydney to London, these children entered a state that defied conventional science. Their quantum fields began to resonate with each other, creating a network that spanned the entire planet. The Purifiers detected it too. Their formations faltered as their sensors registered something they had never encountered before, a planetary-scale response to their attempted purification. The crystalline ships closest to Earth began to show signs of stress, their perfect surfaces developing tiny fractures as they encountered an atmosphere that refused to be changed. But the Grand Purifier was not deterred. Its response was to channel even more energy into its reality-altering beam, creating a visible distortion in the sky above Earth. As our world stood on the brink of either extinction or evolution, the question wasn't just whether we would survive. It was whether we were about to become something that the universe had never seen before. The stage was set for a confrontation that would decide not just the fate of humanity, but perhaps the very nature of life itself in our galaxy. As the Grand Purifier prepared its final attack, the children of Earth's oxygen generation faced an entity that had shaped the cosmos for millions of years. The next few moments would determine whether oxygen-based life was truly a cosmic mistake, or the next step in universal evolution. Just as the Grand Purifier's reality-altering beam reached its peak intensity, something unexpected happened in Earth's orbit. Our deep space telescopes detected new signatures emerging from hyperspace, but these weren't Purifier ships. They were different, organic-looking vessels that seemed to flow like liquid metal through space. The Purifier's formation shifted instantly from attack to defense. Dr. Chen's instruments lit up with unprecedented readings. These new ships, she reported, her voice tight with excitement, they're generating oxygen fields. Not just any oxygen, but complex, organized patterns of oxygen molecules. Whoever they are, they've mastered the very thing the Purifiers fear most. The newcomers called themselves the Brothers, and their arrival changed everything. Through rapidly established communications, we learned a stunning truth. We weren't the first oxygen-breathing species the Purifiers had tried to cleanse. We were simply the first to survive long enough to evolve. The Brothers had been watching us since the first oxygen bomb attack, waiting to see if we would display the same potential they had seen in their own species millennia ago. What the Purifiers viewed as an abomination, the Brothers recognized as the next stage of cosmic evolution, the ability to harness oxygen not just for survival, but as a tool for reshaping reality itself. But their arrival brought both hope and complication. The Purifiers, faced with their ancient enemies, redirected their attack. The reality-altering beam split into multiple streams, creating a web of quantum disruption that threatened to tear apart the fabric of space around Earth. The Brothers' ships moved to intercept, their oxygen fields creating visible distortions where they clashed with the purifier's energy. Meanwhile, something extraordinary was happening on Earth's surface. The oxygen generation children, still linked in their global network, began responding to the brothers' presence. Their quantum fields synchronized with the advanced oxygen manipulation of the breather ships, creating an effect that no one, not even our new allies, had anticipated. The children are acting as amplifiers, Dr. Chen explained, her hands flying over holographic displays. They're not just stabilizing our atmosphere anymore. They're learning to actively control it, using the brothers' energy patterns as a template. It's like they're downloading millions of years of evolutionary knowledge in real time. The purifiers noticed, too. Their religious certainty wavered as they faced not just one oxygen-breathing species, but two, working in harmony to challenge their fundamental beliefs about the universe. The Grand Purifier's surface began to pulse with new patterns, signals that our linguists identified as something unprecedented in their communications: doubt. But doubt made them more dangerous. The Grand Purifier's next action defied even the brothers' predictions. It began to reconfigure itself, its crystalline structure flowing like liquid despite its massive size. The smaller purifier ships merged with it, their combined mass taking on a form that ancient human cultures would have recognized: a world serpent, preparing to consume what it could not purify. The brothers' response was immediate and devastating. Their ships released what looked like clouds of luminescent gas, weaponized oxygen, advanced far beyond anything we had developed. But even their advanced technology seemed to falter against the Grand Purifier's transformed state. That's when the children showed us what humanity's next evolution truly meant. As the battle raged in orbit, their synchronized consciousness reached out not just to each other, not just to the brothers, but to every oxygen molecule in Earth's atmosphere. They weren't just protecting our world anymore, they were turning it into a weapon. Earth's entire atmosphere began to shimmer, charged with the combined potential of ancient knowledge and new evolution. The Grand Purifier's transformation halted mid-sequence as it encountered something it had never imagined possible: a planet that could fight back. The atmosphere of Earth had become a living thing, pulsing with the combined consciousness of millions of oxygen generation children. What the purifiers had intended as a weapon of extinction had become something they couldn't have imagined: a bridge between human consciousness and the fundamental forces of nature. The Grand Purifier's serpentine form writhed against the waves of weaponized oxygen from the brothers' ships, but it was Earth's response that truly shook the massive entity. Every attempt to alter our atmosphere was met with an instantaneous correction, as if the planet itself had developed an immune system. The children weren't just resisting the attack. They were learning from it, adapting our atmosphere faster than the purifiers could change it. Dr. Chen's monitors were displaying readings that defied conventional physics. The children aren't just manipulating oxygen anymore, she announced, her voice filled with awe. They're creating new forms of it, molecular structures that shouldn't be possible. They're rewriting the rules of chemistry itself. The brothers recognized what was happening before we did. Their ships pulled back, creating a defensive perimeter around Earth as something unprecedented began to unfold. The children's consciousness, linked through their quantum fields, had tapped into something far more fundamental than mere atmospheric control. They were accessing the quantum blueprint of oxygen itself. The Grand Purifier's attack faltered as it encountered oxygen molecules that existed in multiple states simultaneously, defying its rigid understanding of reality. Its crystalline structure began to resonate at frequencies that threatened to tear it apart. The entity that had shaped galaxies found itself trapped in a battle it couldn't comprehend, let alone win. But it was what happened next that would be remembered for generations. The children, perhaps guided by some deeper wisdom gained from their connection with the brothers' ancient knowledge, didn't seek to destroy the Grand Purifier. Instead, they began to change it. The oxygen field they generated wasn't a weapon, it was an invitation. For the first time in its ancient existence, the Grand Purifier experienced oxygen not as a corrosive poison, but as a catalyst for transformation. Its crystalline structure began to shift, not in the violent way it had attempted before, but in a controlled metamorphosis. The entity that had sought to purify the galaxy was itself being purified, but not in the way it had expected. The brothers' ships pulsed with energy readings that suggested even they hadn't anticipated this outcome. The children had found a third path, neither destruction nor submission, but transformation. The Grand Purifier's consciousness, touched by this new form of oxygen, began to expand beyond its rigid religious doctrine. As the massive entity's transformation reached its peak, something extraordinary happened. The quantum field generated by Earth's children connected not just with the brothers' ships, but with the Grand Purifier itself. In that moment of connection, a truth was revealed that changed everything. The Purifier's fear of oxygen wasn't random. It was programmed into them eons ago by something that wanted to prevent exactly what was happening now, the evolution of consciousness beyond physical form. The Grand Purifier's serpentine form dissolved, its crystalline structure restructuring into something entirely new, a bridge between silicon-based and oxygen-based life. The children had done more than save Earth. They had broken a cycle of conflict that had lasted for millions of years. But as the transformed entity hung in Earth's orbit, now a shimmering beacon of impossible biology, our instruments detected something else. Deep in space, beyond our solar system, other signals were awakening. The grand experiment that Earth had become was attracting attention, not just from other purifiers or brothers, but from something far older, something that had been waiting for a species to make exactly this leap. Dr. Chen's final readings suggested that our transformation of the Grand Purifier had done more than end an immediate threat. It had sent a signal, a quantum beacon announcing humanity's emergence onto a cosmic stage we were only beginning to understand. The oxygen bombs had been just the beginning. Our real test was about to begin. In the weeks following the transformation of the Grand Purifier, Earth changed in ways we're still trying to understand. The transformed entity, which now called itself the Bridge, remained in orbit as a testament to what humanity had achieved. Its crystalline structure, now infused with impossible combinations of oxygen and silicon, served as a beacon for both brothers and reformed purifiers who came seeking understanding. Dr. Chen's research facility became the center of a new kind of scientific revolution. The oxygen generation children, their abilities now stabilized and understood, began teaching others how to access the quantum fields they had discovered. It wasn't just about manipulating oxygen anymore. It was about understanding our place in a universe far more complex and interconnected than we had imagined. What we thought was a weapon turned out to be a key, Dr. Chen explained during the first International Symposium on Quantum Biology. The oxygen bombs didn't just force us to adapt. They awakened something that was already there, waiting in our DNA. We weren't just surviving, we were remembering what we could become. The brothers shared their own history with us, revealing how their species had made a similar leap millennia ago. They had been watching Earth for centuries, recognizing the potential in our oxygen-rich world. The Purifier's attack had simply accelerated what they believed was our natural evolution, but even they admitted that humanity's transformation had gone far beyond their expectations. Perhaps the most profound changes were the quietest ones. The ability to perceive and influence quantum fields spread slowly through the human population, not as a superpower, but as a new sense, as natural as sight or touch. Children born after the transformation grew up understanding the quantum nature of reality in ways that their parents could only marvel at. The transformed purifiers, guided by the Bridge, began a journey of their own. Their rigid belief in universal purity evolved into an understanding of diversity's role in cosmic evolution. Many of them chose to remain near Earth, learning from humanity's example how to exist in harmony with what they had once feared. But it was the deep space signals that kept our scientists awake at night. The quantum beacon created by our transformation of the Grand Purifier had attracted attention from something ancient, something that had seeded the galaxy with both oxygen-breathing life and its opponents. The patterns in these signals suggested a grand experiment spanning millions of years and countless species. We were never meant to simply survive the oxygen bombs. We weren't even meant to just evolve. We were meant to break a cycle, to prove that transformation was possible even for those who seemed most opposed to change. Humanity hadn't just passed a test. We had fulfilled a purpose we never knew we had. As I stand here now, watching my daughter play with quantum fields as naturally as I once played with building blocks, I can't help but wonder about our future. The signals from deep space grow stronger each day, carrying patterns that our best scientists believe are coordinates, an invitation to humanity's next great adventure. The oxygen bombs that were meant to end us became the catalyst for our transformation. But perhaps that's always been humanity's greatest strength, not just surviving what should destroy us, but using it to become something more. As we prepare to answer the call from deep space, one thing is certain: whatever we find out there, we'll face it as neither victims nor conquerors, but as pioneers of a new kind of evolution. The stars above seem different now, teeming with possibility rather than threat. And somewhere out there, something is waiting to see what humanity will become next. The story of our survival was just the beginning. Our real journey, our next evolution, is about to begin.